morning, allies. My name is David Silverman, president of American Atheists and proud feminist. And I am thrilled to be here to talk with you about our common enemy, the religious right. David Silverman, 2014.
Let me harass her right now. I want to harass her right now, okay? Penis. Penis.
I'm so offended.
David,
you didn't ask my consent.
Penis.
Hello guys, as you have chosen, I am doing a video responding to a recent hangout between Steve McRae and David Silverman on Silverman's channel, Firebrand. Wait, there is a little typo there. There you go, now it's more accurate. Anyway, in the 27th of May, they had a drunk hangout, which was a motherfucking cringe fest. And by the way, I hate you all for making me watch that shit again. Fuck you. Anyway, I did the sacrifice. I had to drink like half a bottle of whiskey to do it, but it's done. The hangout starts with a really unfunny skit about homeopathy, and I mean like coma-inducing unfunny. And since it's not related to the main topic of this video, I'm just gonna skip it and go straight to the part where Silverman asks McRae to give a detail about his MeToo'd story.
You're going to start telling your story, and I'm going to start interrupting you with what you're pissed off on a real-time basis.
You should be pissed off. Everybody should be pissed off about this.
What most people are pissed off about, Steve, is you and your retarded minions stalking and harassing this woman for almost a year.
I was like, I don't agree with Dave's philosophy, but he's a decent dude. He's a nice guy. And we actually got along, and I appreciate that. You never were an asshole to me.
I try not to be an asshole to anybody, unless they really, really deserve it.
Well, I'm the same way.
Steve, you proud yourself to be an asshole. I've seen you many times telling people that if they get offended by your assholeness, they should just get over it. Which is something I find pretty funny, coming from the most sensitive, precious little daffodil I ever came across in my entire fucking life. Anyway, here is a compilation of tweets of Steve McRae being an absolute jerk to people for no reason other than just disagreeing with him. And about Silverman, I have only interacted with him once on Twitter. And it was in fact a good, respectful, and enjoyable conversation. But we happened to have the same opinion on that particular matter, so of course it makes conversation a lot easier. I have seen some tweets of Silverman getting angry at people and losing his shit, but to be honest, you can find tweets of anyone losing their shit on Twitter. So I'll give Silverman some charity and agree that in general he does have a more conciliatory approach to disagreements.
The Me Too movement is wonderful, and I think that women should speak out. But there's a dark side to that. And the dark side of that is that there have been false allegations.
Yes, some women can make false accusations, sure.
It's a shame because it diminishes the victims that have actually been victims of sexual harassment and assault.
Oh, I totally agree, but McRae's behavior shows that he doesn't agree with that at all. For example, when his co-host Shashir made false sexual assault allegations against biologist Fiona Robertson, McRae said nothing about it. In fact, he corroborated her lies.
I can say on pretty good authority that a good friend of ours, Red's Rhetoric, was sexually assaulted by Fiona at JFK.
I know that story.
Uh-huh.
Using the same reasoning, yeah. It's not physically. I mean, physically.
Yeah, like actually sexually assaulted by this woman.
How about this? But we'll just call her the person that sexually harassed Red's Rhetoric. How about that?
Oh, okay.
That's not cool.
Sorry, it wasn't harassed.
That's not cool.
Assault. Somebody named Fiona had sexually assaulted Red's Rhetoric. And I'm taking that off of the word of the victim, which would be Red's.
The word of the victim, you say? Well, let's hear it from the supposed victim.
Since the question is out there in the internet ether, I'm going to go ahead and explain the Fiona situation because I'm done dealing with this shit. I am not going to label what Fiona did as assault. I won't.
The Me Too movement is wonderful, and I think that women should speak out. But there's a dark side to that. And the dark side of that is that there have been false allegations. And it's a shame because it diminishes the victims that have actually been victims of sexual harassment and assault.
You've been busted. You're lying, and you know it.
And McRae himself has made false allegations against YouTuber Nate Brody.
Why won't Steve debate Nate if he's so wrong?
Because I'll never talk to him ever again.
Simple as that. I mean, if it's a good argument, hey, somebody else can run it, but I will never talk to that particular person ever in my life again for very specific personal reasons due to harm to me and my friends and my loved ones.
When people pressed McRae to produce some sort of evidence to confirm that Nate Brody has in fact harmed this woman, Sweet Heathen herself backpedaled on those accusations.
Do you think Nate Brody has actively harmed you directly and or somebody you cared about?
I would say that he has tried to actively hurt me.
Well, I mean,
Ultimately,
it's important.
It's an important distinction.
So, you're full of shit, Steve, but we already know that.
In fact, something like this has happened yesterday or the day before. It wasn't dealing with sexual harassment. It was dealing with race. Poor guy that was telling the woman, I don't know if you saw it, but his name is Cooper, if I remember correctly, he was telling this woman to put her dog on a leash in New York State Park. And she got offended by this. And she is getting on the phone and she's like, look, I'm going to call the police and tell them a black man's harassing me. This has something similarities to the MeToo movement.
Nah, I wouldn't say so. That's just a Karen being a Karen. McRae then goes on and gives his TLDR of the Non Sequitur Show breakup. And even though there is a lot to be debunked, I will gloss over it because it's really not the topic of this video. But just in case Silverman is watching this, let me say a few things. Don't be stupid to believe McRae on his word. He's a fucking bullshitter. I know that by experience because I was very close friends to him and I used to buy his bullshit. For example, you two had this long conversation in your hangout about draws not being illegal, that a business owner can make draws in cash, etc. But that is not the reason why people were questioning McRae. For example, in this leaked conversation between McRae and Kyle, they are talking about taxes. They are talking about income. And then Steve brings up his medical, whatever the hell that is. And because Steve has never fully explained what the hell he meant by this, people have questions to him. It has literally nothing to do about him making draws in cash or whatever it is that he told you, David. Anyway, all I'm saying is, be very skeptical to anything that comes out of Steve McRae's mouth.
She literally helped him get away with stealing $60,000 in my channel by continually tweeting out that I was committing medical fraud and all this other stuff. But then when people weren't buying that in a live chat, 5 days later on June 15th, she threw out allegations of sexual harassment.
Let's see exactly what Katy Joy has said in that live chat. In the video Resurrection streamed on the Non Sequitur Show on the 15th of June of 2019, at around 44 minutes, Katy Joy Paulson, here identified by her channel Without a Crystal Ball, says, Steve said incredibly inappropriate things to me before and after streams. I know what he's talking about. And around 2 minutes later, she says, talking about his penis. Now, McRae pretty much admitted on a live stream on December 24 last year that he did say that.
But there was only so many panels of image to go around, though. I mean, just
well, yeah.
He did
somebody who wasn't going to be doing flat Earth shit.
Yeah. And you promised the entire panel hand jobs if you got on too, so there was that.
Yeah.
We're gonna play the game. Whose penis is this? I said penis again, but again, I'm saying it live. I'm not saying it pre-show. I'm gonna try to avoid ever saying the word penis live before a show, just so somebody can say Steve said the word penis while looking at me in the camera. Oh wait, and you have to be on the screen right now. There you go, dick's on the screen. Stop talking for a second. Wait.
Yikes. One interesting thing about this is that McRae claims that Katy Joy has changed her story multiple times. That, for example, her initial claim was about an exchange on Twitter. But at the same time, Steve acknowledges that her original claim was this one we just saw on the Non Sequitur Show's live chat. So it seems to me that Katy Joy has been consistent with her story. And Steve McRae is the one who's trying to discredit his accuser by spinning a... what is it again, Steve?
A narrative.
Exactly.
I still want to believe that women do not throw around false accusations of sexual assault like Katy did to you.
False. Her accusation was sexual harassment, not assault. They are not the same thing. According to one of Steve's multiple stories, what he did could be considered sexual harassment.
I said penis again, but again, I'm saying it live. I'm not saying it pre-show.
I still want to believe that they just don't throw those around for fun.
No, I think they do it for attention.
Is that so, Steve? Let's have a look at the facts. As we've seen, Katy Joy first made her claim on the Non Sequitur live chat on June last year. And at that time, as embarrassing as it is to admit, I was an active member of Steve's Cult of Idiots. And I do remember that Katy Joy's sexual harassment claim was not a hot topic at all in conversations. In fact, most of the harassment Steve minions did, and I can at least say that I wasn't part of that, was targeted against Kyle, Godless Engineer, and Godless Engineer's wife. Katy Joy was pretty much left alone. But around 22-23 of September, Katy Joy made a video apologizing to Steve for claiming that he had defrauded the VA or whatever. And I tweeted that video praising her for doing the right thing and apologizing to Steve for spreading false information. And most of McRae's fans and McRae himself were ready to let it go and move on. But this person here, a notorious Katy Joy stalker, was the one who started to throw fuel in the dumpster fire. And this person very cleverly went to McRae and said the exact words to get McRae to go after this woman. They said, "Personally, I find letting one with a proven record of at least abusing her platform to make exaggerated accusations off the hook as her current target's no longer Steve a bit unethical." To which McRae responded, "I am astronomically ethical." Seriously, who talks like this? I just have bigger ethical concerns than Katy Joy at the moment. But as his fans started to put more pressure on him to address this issue, Steve tagged Katy Joy, and with the backup of his minions started to demand that she apologized. She said no, that she felt harassed and that her boundaries had been crossed. So it's very clear here that all the way back in September, McRae had the perfect opportunity to let this all go and move on. But he didn't. He chose to go after Katy Joy and demand her to apologize. So to claim that she did all this for attention is ridiculous. The one who picked a fight was you, Steve. So if anyone was looking for attention and drama, it was you.
Tell the audience exactly what she said about you from a sexual assault perspective.
Okay, so
harassment, not assault, for fuck's sake. And notice how McRae doesn't correct Silverman? I guess you just take whatever gives you more oppression points, right, Steve?
let me make this very clear. I am an 18-plus adult content creator kind of thing.
Thankfully, Steve does not really create adult content, even though there is this picture.
Half the stuff that her and Kyle, which was my co-host, and another content creator by the name of Godless Engineer, they talked about sexual things all the time. I mean, they had a huge amount of sexual banter.
So apparently some of the hosts had sexual banter between them. Kyle Curtis, a gay man, Godless Engineer, and Godless Engineer's own wife. Okay.
If I ever said the word penis, it would have been innocuous. But I don't remember anything of the sort. She never gave a timestamp, a date.
Timestamp? How can she give you a timestamp if it wasn't a pre-show? Also, after McRae tagged her on Twitter about this, she asked to have a conversation with Steve via direct messages, which, by the way, are not private calls.
But why would somebody being accused of a crime agree to go into a private call?
And these are the people who hold an annual event calling others dumb fucks. What's important here, though, is that Katy Joy gave the opportunity to McRae to reach out to her in private to discuss this. It was McRae who chose to keep this in the public sphere. So again, the evidence is very clear that Steve McRae was the person who escalated this whole situation.
If you feel uncomfortable because somebody said something, shut the fuck up and sit down and give them a break, for fuck's sake.
No, David, if someone said something that makes you feel uncomfortable, you approach them and you say, "Hey bro, can you not?" People should be encouraged to express how they really feel, especially at work or conventions. Remember, David, back in 2013 when you had this long Twitter argument with another atheist, probably a Thunderfoot fanboy, who complained how the feminists' anti-harassment policies you supported were pandering to women? You had a very different opinion about these things back then, David. Interesting.
Everybody says something uncomfortable sometimes. It's not always sexism. It's not always racism.
Wait, what?
It's not always sexism. It's not always racism.
David, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's almost like she was trying to invent a reason to use sexual assault as a weapon.
I don't think David is talking about Steve's case here. And David, you should seek help, man. For real, like, look at your eyes.
You said penis. That makes her feel very threatened, Ipu.
Katy said she felt uncomfortable, not threatened. And I find it perfectly reasonable that she felt uncomfortable having some drunk 50-year-old man talking to her about his Johnson. It's perfectly understandable.
Oh my goodness, you monster, Steve. You said penis. Penis.
I know.
Wow, even McRae was cringing.
That's
God forbid, right?
in a nerve that goes directly to your sacrum, you know.
Seek help, David. I really mean it, dude.
But here's the thing. I don't even remember what the hell she's talking about. But my thing was, even if I did, so what?
So what? For one, she's a married woman, so you shouldn't be flirting or bantering with a married woman unless you have her explicit consent. And second, when a woman tells you to stop, you fucking stop. Now, I know it's hard for you to keep it in your atheist pants. Oh, sorry, Steve. Agnostic pants. But no means no, David. She said no to you, and you kept going because you made an assumption about what she wanted, and it was a wrong assumption. And that's your fault, David, not hers.
I told her, look, if you're offended by that, okay, whatever. What do you want me to do?
How about you just apologize to the woman you made uncomfortable and just don't do it again? Is that too difficult to you? Does that hurt your precious feelings? Is your masculinity this fragile?
But here's the thing. I actually have women in my life, and you know what? I've asked these women for consent to banter with them.
Well, Steve, you insinuated earlier that it was okay for you to banter with her because the other hosts did it and because you have an adult channel, so she should just suck it up.
I am an 18-plus adult content creator. Guys. I don't even remember what the hell she's talking about. But my thing was, even if I did, so what?
So it seems to me that you never asked her for any consent before casually bringing up your Johnson in a conversation. But if you had her consent, Steve, can you provide the evidence? A timestamp, maybe? I'll be waiting.
The whole point of feminists was to have consent. And then what happens is I get consent, and I love these women. They love me. We have the same kind of banter. And yet outside people are trying to speak on their behalf, and they're offended by this.
Is it really though? Because me and others are of the impression that these women are pressured to behave the way that they do. My impression is that after this insane harassment campaign against Katy Joy, you guys created this environment where if any woman says that she feels uncomfortable, y'all gonna dogpile on her for just being a feminist, sensitive snowflake looking for attention.
If I ever actually am uncomfortable by something Steve says, and I'm not okay to be like, Steve, don't say that. Like, if Steve actually starts exploiting me, who am I going to tell? Who's going to believe me? Nobody. Nobody's going to believe me.
And this sexist environment is worthy of criticism. You guys are broadcasting to the internet live for everyone to see, so you are exposing yourselves to criticism. But if criticism offends you so badly, maybe the internet is not the place for you.
And they're speaking out against this. They're like telling people, stop trying to use us as a weapon against Steve.
Oh, of course, Steve. It's all about you, isn't it? It cannot possibly be that women are criticizing other women for using a platform to belittle and normalize sexual harassment. No, of course not. Because the only thing that women have in mind is you, Steve. Because you are just so irresistible.
Saying the word penis is not an attack. You don't need consent to say the word penis.
Depending on context, yes, you do. Steve claims that YouTube is his full-time job. So he was working when he talked to Katy about his pecker, and at work, you shouldn't do that. Now, I know you haven't been in a real workplace for a very long time, Steve, but that's inappropriate, unprofessional, and is considered sexual harassment.
And she said, well, I shouldn't have to be able to go to work or something like that and have to worry about being sexually harassed.
Right.
And people are like, what? First of all, what are you talking about?
I just explained it.
And so her story had changed.
No, Steve, her story hasn't changed. You want people to believe that because you are spinning what is it again?
A narrative.
Exactly. You do that a lot, Steve.
This gets me so angry because she fucking lied and I saw it.
No, David, you didn't. You're just buying whatever Steve McRae spoon-fed you.
Yeah, I believe men when they say they're victims of false sexual assault allegations.
Oh, so it's like, believe women, bad. Believe men, good. You just went full MGTOW, David. Never go full MGTOW.
then she changed her story to it was doing a pre-show.
No, Steve, that was her story from the start.
In a live chat 5 days later on June 15th, she threw out allegations of sexual harassment.
You've been busted. You're lying, and you know it.
Now, I know you're not gonna take my advice, Steve, but you really shouldn't lie on the internet. It makes you look really bad. And it makes you look exceptionally bad when you are lying while being accused of sexual harassment.
Okay, like I said, I only recall having 2 shows with her. In both pre-shows, both the producer, Bullinator, and Kyle were in those pre-shows.
Her claim is that it was only the 2 of you. Is it true? I don't know, and she was very clear to say that she can't prove it. But her rendition of the story is credible, especially considering the way Steve McRae behaves around women.
Kyle never once vouched for her, never once said she was right? And it's been a year and a half, and because he knows that if he does, we're going to ask for evidence, and by the way, he lied about everything else.
Well, Steve, you aren't exactly a beacon of honesty either.
He never once said, yeah, Steve said this. He never once. And my producer called her an outright liar.
Bull is not a credible witness. He has been one of your most loyal lapdogs from the start. I don't believe anything he says.
But anyways,
let's harass her right now. I want to harass her right now, okay? Penis.
I'm so offended. David, you didn't ask my consent.
Penis.
But you know what? You have my consent for everything.
No, but I'm saying it to her, and I didn't give her my consent.
Oh.
If she watches this video, now I've assaulted her.
This is one of the cringiest and most tactless things I have ever seen on the internet. But word is, he has actually helped Katy Joy. On the 3rd of June, Steve McRae was served with a restraining order by Katy Joy due to his incessant 10-month harassment against her. Yes, guys, Steve is now officially a cyberstalker. And that's a rumor. This clip of David Silverman making these disgusting threats against Katy was used in the complaint. And many other things, in fact, were presented to the judge. Like Steve McRae's Instagram, which is entirely dedicated to Katy Joy. The 24 plus videos on Steve McRae's YouTube channels. Facebook and a Reddit group administered by Steve McRae, which are entirely dedicating to spread stuff about Katy Joy. Now, McRae has about 15 days left to request a hearing to present his evidence against Katy Joy's claims. But if he doesn't do so or fail to convince the judge, this restraining order is active for 2 years. So hopefully we will not hear Steve McRae bitching about Katy Joy for the next 2 years. Or maybe we'll see him getting arrested for it. Who knows?
She's trying to get a restraining order for me.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, she's trying to get a quote a restraining order. I'm like, I don't think you understand how those work. I've done nothing wrong. I've certainly never harassed her, although people have been trying to lay this, well, Steve's harassing Katy bullshit.
Well, the judge who issued the restraining order disagrees with you, Steve, and I agree with the judge. And so do the hundreds of people that you and your little cult have in your block list.
She falsely accused me of multiple things. All I've done is stand up for myself.
She falsely accused you of fraud, Steve, which she has apologized for. The sexual harassment claim I find credible. I don't know if it's true, but it is a believable story. It's by far more believable than your bullshit excuses for sure. So, I remain agnostic on her claim. I'm not gonna say it's true, but I'm not gonna say it's false.
But then she changed her story again.
No, Steve, that's you again doing that thing you do.
Manipulate people to form a narrative.
Exactly.
She said then it was in a live stream.
It's not absurd that you refer to a pre-show as a live stream. It's all in the same call. The difference is that the live stream is when you are actually broadcasting. Besides, you have pretty much admitted that you have said that to her and she should just suck it up. That's the problem with you. Your defense is all over the place. You can't just stick to one fucking story. And you know what? That's exactly what people would expect from someone trying to weasel his way out of a legit sexual harassment accusation. Just saying.
Cheshire did a wonderful breakdown of it the other day on her channel as well.
It's the one where she refers to direct messages as private calls.
But why would somebody being accused of a crime agree to go into a private call?
You guys just make it too easy.
I'm like, well,
but she fucking implied it a lot now, didn't she? She fucking implied it, which was enough to hurt your reputation.
Oh, better, no.
Not really, David. You and Steve McRae have done an excellent excellent job destroying your own reputations.
These women who they say, oh, we're poor, oppressed women. Men are raping us all the time.
No, David, Katy Joy is not claiming that. The women who came forward with the allegations against you were not claiming that. You are claiming that because you want to score some oppression points.
And then they just file these bullshit claims one after another after another.
One of the women who accused Silverman did make a bullshit claim. I concede that. But there were two other claims, and the claims made by Presswood are, in my opinion, very credible.
The rest of feminism says we don't have a false allegation problem.
Yeah, some feminists do say that, I agree, but I don't think it's a majority. And I'm pretty sure most women, which are not all feminists, are fully aware that sometimes women do take advantage of sexual harassment or sexual assault accusations. Unfortunately, it does happen. And in my opinion, David is in fact victim of at least one false accusation.
Feminism has become the defense against the false allegations. You can't say that we have to believe all women. All women are oppressed. All men are pigs. Yes, all men.
Hashtag not all feminists. Now, in part I agree with Silverman. I do think some feminists put women in a pedestal and are very demeaning of men and masculinity. I do think that's the problem, and it's one of the reasons why I prefer to not call myself a feminist.
And now we're sitting here with lots and lots of hard evidence that women make false sexual assault allegations often.
2 to 6% according to some studies from a couple of years ago. Now, if you have more recent data that contradicts that, I would love to see it.
So a skeptic would start asking some questions, right?
Yeah.
When did this take place? What was the date? What was the time? Do you have a timestamp? What was actually said? Who was the witnesses?
Katy has said that she had no witnesses. That's why she never made a formal complaint, because she can't prove it. She claims it was just the two of you in a live stream pre-show. There was nobody else around. And often sexual harassment or assault accusations do not have witnesses for pretty fucking obvious reasons.
So but people started asking her some of these questions. She started blocking people.
Yeah, but you know, when someone criticizes or asks uncomfortable questions to you or one of your minions like Red's Rhetoric, you guys block them or delete their comments. So for the next few minutes, McRae repeats the same fucking bullshit he's been saying for half an hour. I'm not gonna debunk the same shit over and over again, so just skip a little to the part where Silverman talks about the allegations against him.
In my 3 false allegations, all 3 of those people are still well accepted in our community.
Now, in my opinion, Presswood's claims are credible. St. Clair's claim that she was too drunk to consent, I am not very keen to accept it. But it does seem that she really believes that she was too drunk to consent. So, could you say that she's been lying? I don't think so. So to me it seems that she does regret her decision. Whether that is sexual assault or not, I am inclined to think that it isn't. And Vixen, well, I wouldn't say she's well accepted. Most people I've spoken to, including women, think her accusations are ridiculous.
All of these other women abusers, they destroy men while destroying the relationship between men and women.
Well, David, if you are talking about yourself, you did cheat on your wife. And you lost your job at American Atheists for things unrelated to the sexual assault accusations. So you can keep blaming these gargoyle feminists for your own downfall, but you would look a lot better if you assume at least some responsibility for what happened to you.
Rebecca Vixen and Beth Presswood are considered, these women, and I'm sure this Katy Joy is the same thing. She's lauded for being so brave.
Yes. Oh,
I wouldn't say so. Most people seem to think Vixen's allegations are bullshit. Katy Joy, well, she does have an insane group of cyberstalkers. And the main reason why people are showing her support is because your buddy there has been harassing and stalking her for almost a year. And that's exactly why there is a restraining order against him now.
You're a baby, little girl, feminine, you can't possibly deal with the fact that Steve McRae said penis to you. Which
I think Katy Joy dealt with it just fine. It was actually her husband who eventually escalated escalated things because he was mad at this 50-year-old bum cyberstalking his wife. And wouldn't you too, David? Having some creepy boomer talking shit about your wife day and night, making fun of her looks, talking about your kid after she had repeatedly asked him to stop? I think you would be pretty mad about that. And if we're going to look at how this story developed, it was McRae that couldn't accept being called out for his bad behavior. And McRae has become a meme exactly because of that. He has even threatened to flag channels that do that. So when you say shit like that, David,
You're a baby, little girl, feminine.
you look like a fucking hypocrite, just like McRae.
People can and rightly should say, well, get the fuck over it and move on with your life because you're an adult.
You know what? That's actually a pretty good advice. I think you should do that, David.
Bane was that the Catholic Church was hiding their pedophiles. They were taking their pedophiles and moving them to another place where they would hurt more kids. We were so angry at the Catholic Church for holding and hiding their pedophiles, and here feminism is doing the exact same thing.
Now you are sounding insane. You are comparing people who do not call out women who make false sexual assault accusations, which I agree is a very bad thing, to the most powerful Christian organization in the fucking world protecting actual pedophiles. You went full MGTOW again.
Oh, no. They're not bad. They're good, even though they're provable liars, even though they provably ruined and hurt good people, allies.
Well, McRae isn't someone I'll call a good person. I mean, he's officially a cyber stalker now. And to be honest, Silverman's records isn't that great either, just saying.
We're going to protect them because we want to protect the mantra that women can't lie about sexual assault, which, by the way, they apparently do quite often.
Citation needed.
It's about the fact that feminism doesn't care or stop the individuals, even in the face of undeniable proof that they fucking lied and hurt a good guy.
He's misrepresenting things quite a bit. The women who came forward did face some backlash. And you, David, it wasn't just these allegations that destroyed your reputation. You know that very well.
I am pretty well versed in fallacies. I took, a college level info of fallacies. I've done videos on fallacies.
Oh, he makes videos, guys, so he must know what he's talking about.
And this is not to say that all Catholics are. Some people try to compartmentalize. Some people try to rationalize. Whatever. I'm not really talking about those. I'm talking about the people that just don't freaking care.
You actually did call them rape apologists. And then you got really butthurt when people call you that after you effectively defended a convicted rapist.
To me, I believe it was consensual, but that's my opinion, right?
So if you like to dish it out, Steve, be ready to take it too.
Trying to turn me into a rape apologist because I had somebody on my channel who was a rapist. And that has been a narrative for like 2 years now.
He said it. McRae then goes on to talk about the story with Earl David Warden. I am not going to respond to that because I intend to make a whole video about that.
You're also a sexual assailant because you say the word penis. That's just as bad as actually, pinning somebody against the wall and shoving your finger up her pussy like Joe Biden apparently did.
Oh, the cringe. You guys asked for it. It's your fucking fault.
All the women, I think there's half a dozen of them, who are making complaints against Joe Biden right now are all fucking full of shit.
Yeah, I agree that most of them are bullshit, but some of them, if it's in a workplace scenario, can be considered sexual harassment.
And, he is one of those hands-on people.
Being too touchy at work is inappropriate, but women should address it when it happens, not years later, because that does undermine the credibility of the claim. And that's why, David, we should encourage women to say how they feel when it happens, instead of just telling them to suck it up and shut the fuck up, as you did earlier. It's better for everyone if there isn't an environment of silence.
I had a friend who was getting a little bit more forward, and they're gay. I did the adult thing and said, look, I just don't, could you not like banter with me like this because it's a little bit much and I'm not gay, and I'm not interested.
No, No, Steve should shut the fuck up, stop being such a snowflake, and accept his friend's behavior. At least, this is what you two have been saying that women should do. So it's like one rule for men and another rule for women. So much for being a hashtag real feminist. The next couple of minutes, they bitch about feminism, how it has changed, etc., which is something in general I agree with. But of course, it's this too, so there are some cringe moments here and there.
I had a friend of mine, her name was Brittany Simon. She was very active on YouTube as a feminist. She was probably pushing 100,000 subs when she left. She lived not that far from me. We used to hang out all the time together. And by the way, she was never sexually harassed.
I do not support the idea of equity at all. Okay, I support the idea of equality, but not the idea of equity. Equity assumes all people are equal, and that also assumes that all people want the same things.
Silverman is using the Petersonian definition of equity, which is not the normative definition used in academia. In law and social sciences in general, equity is a term related to fairness and distributive justice. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy has a very good entry about that. You should check it out. Silverman then lays out a diatribe about how equity is a really bad thing, but of course he's using the Petersonian definition of it. And then McRae tries to make a counter-argument, but all of this is really boring, so I'm just gonna skip most of it and just address a little Silverman's claims about racism.
Blacks have a higher percentage of being killed by a cop when cops come out than the average white guy. I'm sorry, this is a fact.
That's wrong. A black Harvard professor who did a comprehensive professional Harvard professor quality study.
The study that Silverman is referring to is called An Empirical Analysis of Racial Differences in Police Use of Force, and it was published by Harvard in 2017. This study does support the claim that he's making about deadly shootings, even though it also says that Black and Hispanic people are much more likely to experience use of force in non-lethal encounters with the police. And a very important thing about the study is that the author acknowledges that data is lacking to make any clear conclusions. And there are studies that contradict the findings of this study from Harvard. The truth regarding this topic is that there isn't enough data to make any conclusions either way. There is in fact very little information about police shootings available to the public, which is quite shocking. However, when it comes to use of force in general, the available data does show a bias against Black and Hispanic people.
In like-for-like comparisons across many cities, blacks are 24% less likely than whites to get shot by cops.
This data, which in the study is shown at table 4, is only about Houston, Texas, not the whole country. And when data from other counties is considered, which is table 5, the numbers are different. But as we've seen before, the author of this paper acknowledges that data is lacking to make any final conclusions. And when you listen to Silverman in this hangout, it seems that to him, this paper settles the matter and is conclusive evidence that there is no police bias at all against Black people. And that kind of sounds like a Christian using the Bible as the only source of truth to understand the world. Well, the last half hour of the hangout is them again talking how much of two-part victims they are, that feminism is bad, and we should really feel sorry for them, blah blah blah. And I just can't be bothered to respond to that. I'm done. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave this video a like, share it, subscribe to my channel. I know times are tough, but if you enjoy what I do and you want to support this channel, I do have a tip jar on PayPal and I do have a Patreon. I'll leave the link to those in the description of this video. And finally, a big thank you to all of my subscribers and an ultra massive thank you to all of my patrons. You guys are fucking legends. I've been Sarah Michelle and I'll see you next time. Cheers.